All right, so I'm joined today by Mr. Linus Groh, who's SerenityOS developer from Germany. And this is the first in what's hopefully a series of interviews with Serenity developers. We'll see if somebody steps up after seeing this one. So, Linus, welcome as the first guest on the show.
Very excited. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to finally meet you, sort of. So, I thought I would begin by asking a little bit about you and your background. So, could you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a developer from Germany. I started coding at like 13, 14 years old. I never went to uni, so I'm like self-taught. Did have a little bit of computer science lessons in school, but other than that, it's mostly like learning by doing, all that stuff. Got into open source at some point, found that very interesting. It's not the reason I started doing development, but it's certainly the reason I'm still doing it. So it's like one of the driving motivations for just going into different things, learning stuff, keeping exploring. So
Sure, yeah.
it's always very exciting.
Do you remember what was your first programming experience?
I do. It was so I started doing a little bit of web dev, no JavaScript, just HTML and layouts in tables and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, very old school. And then I took a little break from that because I wanted to do something more interactive, so to say. So I started learning Python and specifically the game library Pygame.
Okay.
So I wrote like little games where you could move something with the keyboard, or like it would make sounds and you could collect points. Like just very simple small games. Turns out I'm not really a gamer or game developer at all, so I kind of moved on from that since then.
Sure, but it's good that you tried it.
True. So I went back into web development mostly, which is still what I do today at work, at least full time. So yeah, doing lots of JavaScript, lots of HTML, SCSS, all that stuff. So it was very excited to see you start doing a JavaScript engine for Serenity. So that's kind of where I jumped into that.
Yeah, I remember that. You were particularly excited when that started. And you kind of came in and picked it up right away, started working on it. Could you tell us about something that you worked on in Serenity that you're particularly happy about?
The JavaScript engine called Libjs, for those who don't know, is still like the one major thing where I worked on. Much since like the beginning, after it started having like a parser and a generated AST, whereas you started with like a hand-coded AST.
Yeah.
So once that got up and running, I saw like a chance to jump into that and do like very simple things like implement if statements, implement basic operators like addition and subtraction, that kind of stuff. And it always scared me, the idea of like browsers and JavaScript engines. Like I didn't really know how they were built, and they were like these huge, massive projects with several decades of work behind them. Unlike you start your own, it's probably quite difficult to get into one, like just for fun.
Yeah.
Because they are already so advanced and like you can't really implement anything basic, so to say. So I was like really excited. There's something new here. I can try this out.
Yeah, you get a chance to be there in the beginning. That's how you can really like build an understanding of something. It's a rare opportunity, I guess. And I'm really glad that you showed up because you're so you're so diligent with like all the little details. Like I'm always like running around rushing ahead to the next thing, and you're sitting there with the details, just spending the time it takes to get it right. So that's been really good.
And apart from JavaScript, random things really, like some enhancing some small detail in the program. I implemented one kernel syscall, so that was interesting. wrote the crash reporter. So like random bits, basically. That's one thing I really like. You can like jump around. You can go wherever you want. Like if you're tired of JavaScript, just do a day or a week or a month of something else. There's so much to do. You'll find something.
Yeah.
So that's one major difference of the open source work I've done before, I think. So whenever I would get like tired of something before, I would like switch the project and then leave the old project like behind or come back to it later. But this way I can stay with the same people, stay with the same project, and just focus on something else, learn something else.
Yeah, I think that's really one of the great strengths of this project is that like we have everything under one roof, right? So you never have to leave unless you really want to.
Right.
But I guess so that's stuff that you've been doing already, like the JavaScript engine and various things, but also the crash reporter. Recently, I've been harassing you with feature requests for the crash reporter. So how did you find like working in the kernel context after? Like you made this interesting journey here, right? Like from a web developer professionally, and then you go in and work on the JavaScript engine, and then you find yourself implementing crash reports in a kernel. Do you find that transitioning easy?
Well, also like much like the browser and JavaScript stuff, kernels is nothing I really like ever looked at in detail or like learned about specifics or anything like that. Like I know what a kernel is and like it runs underneath everything and that's it about. So basically it was a little bit difficult like to make that transition and also like change of mind because like you have to think a bit differently, I think, because when your user space program crashes, then everything's fine. But when the kernel crashes, you have much bigger problems. So there's like a little difference required in how you approach things, I guess. But on the other hand, it's all very similar in a way, like user space Serenity and kernel Serenity, because it's all using like the same libraries.
Yeah.
So that's certainly super useful when you're already used to the container classes and all that stuff. Like you can just reuse that in the kernel as well. So that definitely helped.
I'm glad to hear that. That was it was one of the theories I had when I started, that if you just write the whole system with the same container classes, then it will make it like tremendously easy later on to just switch context. So it's good to hear that that's working out. If I could ask you, like, people often ask me, what is my goal with the Serenity project, right? Like they ask me, what am I trying to do here? And sure, I have my goals, but there are all these other people like you working on the project as well. And I'm sure you have your own goals, and I don't really know what they are. So what are your goals for the Serenity project?
Right. So for starters, learning things, lots of things. So that was, I guess, my main motivation when I started on the JavaScript engine, because I already had a solid understanding of JavaScript, but to be honest, I couldn't tell you lots of details, right?
Sure.
So things how they worked under the hood, or like some more advanced or complicated stuff, I wouldn't know. I would have to look up. So I saw that as an opportunity to like strengthen my JavaScript skills on their own. So outside of a Serenity context, like just everyday JavaScript development work, it's a bit different now because I'm a lot more confident that I know what I'm doing and what's going on, right? So when you've seen all the internals, and I've read spec now, so that's something I've not done before, like looked at the JavaScript spec.
Oh, really?
That's not actually that it's not actually that scary or complicated. Once you like look at it, it's just a bunch of code that needs to be written, and that's it.
Totally agree.
So that's one reason, like to learn about that. Also, the old school style appearance is something I find quite appealing. So I mean, when I do like web dev, it's usually very modern, right? So like fancy 2020 designs and all that. Nothing really old school. So it's like a nice contrast between my other work and like Serenity, to have that old feeling back.
Sure.
So I used to use like a lot of Windows XP with the old theme. Is what I used for a long time, and before that, I think Windows 2K maybe. Can't quite remember if that's the one.
Very good taste.
So that's very very appealing to have. Like, it's also very consistent, right? So it's not like I mean, lots of people work on it, but yet it's a very consistent look and feel. So it's a bit frustrating when you have a system that like works nicely, but it looks like it was built by people with completely different taste, right? So one program does implement things this way, and one does it this way, and they all look different, and that's like a little bit distracting and annoying.
And I think you're right.
So it's nice to contribute to that consistency.
I agree, and I think you're right. I think those programs were built by people with different taste, and it's kind of an unsolvable problem. Like when you have so many people with independent projects, and then they all patchwork everything together. It's just, you can't solve that. So it sounds to me like your main interest here is just to learn and to expand your skills.
Yes, certainly, and have fun and code for fun and talk to all these nice people. It's all very, very cool.
Cool. That's
to be a part of this. And then I should also mention that I basically use this as my attempt to learn C++, so to say. So I did know very little, close to none C++ when I first started. So I had like little experience with Arduino C++, which you can like run on Arduino systems. But other than that, I didn't really know how pointers work, because I'm so used to like dynamic languages,
really?
Python and JavaScript. Yeah.
See, you could have fooled me, because you just got started so quickly. I didn't know.
I mean, I had like some very, very basic overview of how this worked, but not really. And I think if you look back at my first pull requests, you can certainly see how,
now I have to.
how wrong some things were. Like, no, this is not how it works. But I think it went well, and while it's probably not the same C++ everyone else learned, because we don't use the standard library, right?
Yeah, true.
So
true.
I wouldn't say like I know C++, but I know Serenity C++.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of a sandbox language in a way. Like we're free from the outside world, and it has benefits, and it also has drawbacks. Because you have to do everything yourself, but it seems to be working pretty well for this project. I think it seems to be building this sense of accountability in all the people who work on it. That there's never an issue where like something is broken and nobody wants to touch it. Instead, like people seem to feel very responsible, and I noticed this about you as well. That like if somebody reports just the stupidest little JavaScript bug, then like an hour later you're there with a pull request.
Yes,
like, you're violating this obscure little detail of the regex parsing spec or whatever.
Well, usually they're not even that hard to fix, right? Like, it's just something you didn't notice at first, and then someone reports it, so might as well go and fix it if it's only a one-line change.
Yeah, so. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah,
but yeah.
Still, I think it's very interesting for me to observe sort of the culture that is taking shape around this project, because it's all very organic, but it's such a nice community around it, and I don't know, it's just really fun to see what happens.
I agree.
So anyway, if we were to talk about some other software, not just about Serenity, I wanted to ask you, sort of in general, like, what do you think makes good software?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I think it depends a lot on who your target audience is, right? So like if you're writing consumer software, just needs to be easy to install, easy to use. Like you probably wouldn't put a ton of options in there. So I think point number one is knowing your audience and targeting your audience. So I think that's something Serenity does very well. The audience is developers, its own developers. So we can like put cool things in there, development tools, things we like. I like that that like slogan thing, based on the things. Written. No, remind me. How does it work?
I don't remember. It's based on the things we like.
But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. One of us should know this, but
we should, yeah. But I think we do that very well. Like, not really focusing on non-technical users, like making everything quite simple and just straightforward, so to say. But like, if we want to add cool things and things developers would use, then we do that. Like, for example, the Hack Studio IDE. Like, that is based on experience of developers who use IDEs and basically know what they would expect from an IDE. So we can like build the perfect product for ourselves, basically.
Right. Yeah. So know your audience is what you're saying, basically.
Yeah. Know your audience. So another one is probably like performance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it gets very annoying if something keeps like being non-performant. Like you notice that really fast. Like when things load slowly or whatever. And I think it's also something Serenity does well. Like booting is super fast. Like that's really fascinating when you run it, at least in QEMU. I haven't tried it on real hardware, but like you run it and it takes a second or two maybe, and then you're on the desktop. And like that's really fascinating. Whereas on some other systems, it's like you wait and then you wait and then you wait some more, and then you start opening programs and then you wait some more. So that's really cool to have it like at that a great performance and keeping that up, and like having an eye on that to not start making things slow down. So that's important, I think. And then another one is like making it accessible to people.
Okay.
Which I don't necessarily mean the well, I also mean like making it accessible via like keyboard and all that stuff, but that's probably not something we're super focused on yet. But like just putting it out there. So I mean, it's all open source. Everyone can just take it apart, can look inside, can do whatever they want, basically. So I think that's like an important aspect. If they don't like something, they can change it right away. At least if people agree, and it gets merged. So it's not like a black box, but you can actively work on it if you want, or if you don't, you can just use it. Like that's like a great way of developing it and distributing it. Well, it's not really distributed, but the source code is, so that's enough for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, and even if you have some change you want to make and everybody hates it, you can still make it yourself and keep it for yourself only. Right. I remember I had a coworker once who was also using Qt Creator, and he hated something about it. There was some button that bothered him, and he made a patch to remove the button, and they wouldn't take it, but he kept maintaining that patch on his own machine for years, so he didn't have to see that button. So yeah, that's kind of a nice thing about
so
open source.
Then had a.
What's that?
So he used this. He used his own uncompiled Qt Creator just for that.
Just for that.
I mean, if it works.
Yeah, it did.
If it works, it works.
So I guess Something else I wanted to ask you about is, since you're a person who came into this project and attacked a bunch of things that you didn't really know how to do, how do you approach something like that, like starting on something that you don't know how to do?
So what really helped is watching your videos, which I did quite some time before I actually started working on it, because you just get a feeling for how things are supposed to be done, I guess, or like how they could be approached. So like seeing your thought process and seeing you find bugs, fix bugs, like that whole thing really helps. And I think also takes off some of the it makes it a lot easier to just attempt it yourself if you see like there's an actual person working on it and succeeding at it, and it's not just oh, this has been perfect from day one, I guess now I can really contribute because I don't can do the same thing. So that certainly helps a lot. I mean, also just getting feedback from people. Like if I have a question, I just put it in the ISC channel. Someone will answer it probably.
Yeah.
Like having people who know what they're doing when you sometimes don't. To have them like close to you and just being able to openly ask, right? And then also like just reading the necessary documentation and specs. Like for JavaScript, there's a whole document that tells you how things are supposed to be done. So just have to look at them. And it's not that hard. I keep saying that, but really isn't.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Start at the top and work your way down.
I'm so glad you say that. I wish we could convince everybody that it's just not that hard, and you just have to start. I think certainly you're a great example of that. Like you just started on stuff you were interested in, and you were able to figure it all out. So I hope you start on something else interesting soon. So do you have any idea what the next thing you're going to work on is?
Well, I mean, JavaScript is still not done, right? So we have many more things to implement. I haven't really looked at performance that much in the JavaScript engine, so that's been mostly you. Maybe that's something I could start looking into, actually profiling the engine, finding bottlenecks. I'm sure we have some.
Oh, definitely.
And what else? I think just want to keep going with just doing whatever I like, because that's basically what everyone does, right?
Yeah.
Whatever they feel like working on, they can work on. So it's not really. I like your idea of not having a grand plan or like a list of things that totally need to be done. Just whatever feels right. Just go and look into it. So that's a nice philosophy of doing this.
Yeah, I actually, why do you think that works so well for us? Like, because we do this thing where everybody can just do what they like, and somehow it's not a huge mess. Like, why do you think that is?
I'm not quite sure. It's probably because people feel like I'm not sure. So, another project is like there's a timeline of things that are going to be done, and then expectations start to grow. Oh, this isn't implemented yet, we need to implement this. And then people start maybe get grumpy because they have to do something they don't really want to do, maybe. And this way, if at 100% of the time everyone just works on whatever they want and like, more importantly, then that's going to be like a great result and happy developers. No one's going to be forced to do anything.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to do it, then they don't do it. And in the end, everyone's just, I think, glad what they do and proud of what they do, and just works out nicely.
Yeah, I guess it might be a little difficult to say, oh, now is a good time for a release. But other than that,
yeah,
it's very good. All right. I'm kind of out of questions here. So my last thing I wanted to ask you about is that do you work on any other projects other than Serenity?
I do. So, to be honest, Serenity is most of what I do these days. But I have a couple of other projects. So, if you're interested in like what Google used to provide, they have like a tracking service for your location data, but self-hosted. So that's called OwnTracks.
Okay.
It's like a small team of developers. I mostly work on the front end for that. So it's like a map where you can install a app on your phone, and it's all self-hosted, and then you have like tracking data for if you like hiking or just where you've been, like holidays, all that stuff. So if you don't want to put that data on another corporation's server, but then maybe check that out.
That sounds like something.
OwnTracks is a server I fronted.
That sounds awesome.
And another thing, I quite like doing like a little bit of hardware things with Raspberry Pi and stuff. So they have a display where I wrote a simple Python library to just control the brightness and all that stuff. So that works quite well. Few people use it. I don't really work on it all that much anymore because it's mostly done. But if you're into that, check it out.
Cool. I guess I'll put some links to your stuff in the video description. And I guess that's awesome. It. So I'm just going to have to say thank you very much, Linus, for being a guest on this program. It's very good to talk to you.
Cool. Looking forward to see some other people here as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Great. Thank you, and goodbye.